Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. My name is Julius Walczynski, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. The topic today is the ins and outs of wireless downloading for mobile video surveillance. All right, this is the agenda for today. We'll take about 45 minutes to present this all to you, and we'll take the balance of the hour for your questions. We'll start off with some brief housekeeping about instructions on how to use the GoToWebinar panel. I'll introduce our panelists. We will then do a brief introduction of our company and SafeFleet, our parent company. Then we'll get into wireless downloading. We'll start off by a brief overview of what it is and what it does. And the meat of the webinar really are these 5 steps and tips and best practices towards implementation. We'll finish off by a quick overview of our wireless downloading management software. So on the line from Florida with us is Mr. Don Carter, who is the Director of Transportation at St. Lucy's Public Schools. He's a leader of a team of more than 500 school transportation professionals. He's been with the district for 13 years, during which he implemented many systems and made many new changes, including fairly recently, implementing a wireless downloading system. Hello, Mr. Carter.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Great. It's great to have you on here for to share your opinions and experiences with us. And sitting next to me is my colleague Bob Burke, who has 20 years of industry experience. We've been lucky to have him with us for the last 17 of those years here with Seon, where he works with clients of various sizes to promote greater fleet safety, security, and efficiency through customized hardware and software solutions. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Julius. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Carter, for being with us today. Before we start and talk a little bit about wireless downloading, I just wanted to chat a bit about Seon and our parent company, SafeFleet. When everybody is selecting a vendor, you often ask yourself, what separates one vendor from another? I think one of the things we need to look at today is what makes a vendor unique. With technology where it's at today, everybody being similarly or very equal in regards to what they have access to as far as technology, being unique as a vendor is very important. If you look at the wheel, these are all the verticals that SafeFleet is currently in. We have all kinds of different solutions that we can provide end users today in many different markets. Seon's success in the last 17 years that I've been with the company really has come down to 3 very simple fundamentals, which we keep going today. And it's a great quality product at a fair price with unsurpassed after-sales support and service. I think the after-sales support and service has really been something we have focused on for many years, and we've never deviated from this very simple business model, and we have been very successful in our industry, as everybody knows. The school bus today, any bus manufacturer today is equipped with solutions from SafeFleet. I don't think people realize how many pieces of a school bus that SafeFleet is actually involved in. And we are continuing to strive and work towards, as you see in the bottom right of the screen there, that danger zone that has been around forever on a school bus. All the solutions we are working towards and where we're moving towards is to turn that danger zone into a safety zone. Being diverse in the industry is very important. We can cater to fleets of all different sizes. We've got customers with 15 buses, and then we've got clients like Chicago Public Schools with fleets as large as 2,200 buses. So again, being a diverse company is very important to be successful long-term in this industry.
Thanks, Bob. Now, before we continue the presentation, I would like to get our audience involved a little bit here. I'm going to launch a poll. There, you should be able to see it now. And just please click on your screen and let us know. So this poll is all about your challenges that you're experiencing now that I assume most of you do not have wireless downloading. Which of these challenges speaks to you, keeps you up at night the most? So we'll let this poll run for about a minute. And in the meantime, Mr. Carter, perhaps you can talk to what challenged you the most before you got wireless downloading in Port St. Lucie.
Well, we've certainly experienced all of these. I think for us, it was getting to where once schools found out that we had video capability to begin with, they really relied on us a lot. We were just discussing that this morning in our staff meeting about how some of them are actually getting ridiculous now, where they're calling and asking for a week's worth of video for some little event. So, we have to do a little education on that side to explain, it doesn't work quite like that. You need to kind of narrow it down for us. But we've certainly dealt with all of these, but the number of requests has definitely been up lately.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I'll let the poll run for a few more seconds. I see, well more than half of you voted. 63% of you voted. That'd be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, good feedback. Thank you, everyone.
If we got voting like that on federal elections, both north and south of the border, that'd be awesome. Okay, a couple more seconds. Get your votes in. And I'm going to close this poll, and now I'm going to share it. So let me make sure you see that. Yeah, there we go. Let me just share here with our panelists. Sorry. All right, there's the results. So Mr. Carter, increased video requests was your biggest pain. For our audience is the long manual hard drive retrieval process at 30%, increased video requests at 27%, and offline systems and not knowing they are offline. Those are the big three winners with 30, 27, 25% respectively. Facing the elements is the biggest thing for 11% of you. I'm guessing maybe people from Minnesota or perhaps Florida or Texas. And then loss, damage, misplaced hard drives at 7%. So yeah, I think no big surprises there. And of course, a couple people replied with questions. We should choose all of the above. It's too hard to narrow down. Yeah, these are definitely the kinds of pains that we see.
Yeah, most definitely. And everybody's feedback, thank you again for participating in that poll, because these are all things that we're going to be covering throughout the presentation in the coming slides.
Okay, I'm going to hide the poll here. Close this. And next slide. Bob, before we get into the benefits and the tips and best practices and so on, what exactly is wireless downloading?
Well, it's very simply a system that downloads video wirelessly from buses on demand. We have wireless downloading automatically automatically sends video files from your buses through a secured network to a server or a computer that is dedicated on site at the school transportation department.
Great. And what is involved with it?
We establish hardware at a fueling station, at a transportation compound, or even at the school pickup and drop-off zones. There's Wi-Fi hardware on the buses, and then there is software involved to manage the video downloads, and then support to make it all work.
Right. So in summary, it's basically a piece of hardware on a bus, right? Piece of hardware at the yard or at the fueling station, the software to run it all, and also the network support to support it all.
Absolutely.
All right. Mr. Carter, we'll get back to you right now. Perhaps as Bob is presenting his tips and best practices here, he will be asking you for questions from your experience. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your district, the size, and kind of what I guess how wireless downloading changed your work.
Okay, so we've had a long-standing relationship with Sayon. Of course, you have to build that relationship with whichever vendor you work with. But eventually, what we were looking at was consolidating our video systems down to one vendor, because several years ago we had not only the old VHS tapes, which we rotated out daily, but we had 3 or 4 different DVR platforms. And generally, they each had to have their own kind of reader, so that just created a hassle. Like people were talking about the long process to retrieve video. Once we retrieved it, we had to make sure we had either a VHS player or which reader do we use, that kind of thing. So we have over 300 routed buses, and we transport about 23,000 kids a day. And we have 3 different compounds or staging areas, so pretty large district. So the wireless was really something we were looking at to streamline our process, because we were experiencing all of those issues that was in the poll earlier. And the great thing now that we have it installed is we don't have to go outside in the elements to retrieve the videos, save a lot of time. We just put in the request and wait for it to download. No more hard drive swapping, having to make sure you got a spare to swap out for it. And our area managers and security staff all can access the video from their computer, wherever they may be, to put in the request. And of course, our actual videos, we keep it behind our firewall for security. But even that, if they have the proper VPN credentials, they could get to it from offsite if they needed to.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carter, and we're looking forward to more of your experiences and stories throughout the webinar. I'd like to remind everybody that as soon as a question pops into your head, you can put it into the questions panel there. We will save it till the end. First time, I've been doing these type of webinars for years, and today, the first time I had somebody email me a list of questions before the webinar, and that was so awesome.
Enthusiastic. We like that.
Glad to see the audience engaged. But so I won't embarrass the person by naming him here, but thank you. You're a real Boy Scout. Okay. So Bob, step one, Mr. Carter was talking about networking, and obviously IT is a big part of that. So our first step as far as implementing wireless downloading successfully is working with your IT department.
Yeah,
how do we do that?
Definitely, this is a very important part. And Seon, as a company, we've been doing Wi-Fi video downloading for just over 10 years now. And we have learned that it is extremely important to involve your IT department early on, right from the beginning. Years ago, we would work with transportation directors like Don Carter and yourselves out there in the field, and we would start all the discussions and bring IT in later, and it just didn't work. It didn't flow smoothly. Nobody knows or understands your network better than your own IT department. And in today's industry, we're noticing more and more that we're able to piggyback off networks that are already in place. So we do have the ability to help IT departments build a new network if need be. But if you guys are already implementing or investing in existing or improving your networks now, more often than not, we can piggyback off of that. Mr. Carter, would you be able to elaborate a little bit on this first step and how we did that with you guys?
Sure. So we took the initial site review by Seon and brought it in with our IT department, had them look over it to get their feedback, because in so many years, I've spent time fighting IT as much as I've been using them to my advantage. So I've decided it's easier to try to get them on board. So we brought them in, they looked at it, and they took the information. And we had existing wireless networks in the buildings at each of our locations. So once they looked at the site plan, they thought it would be best if we just extended our existing network. We're a Cisco shop, so they wanted to go with them and just extend what we already had, which was fine. It works great. We still brought in the Seon hardware on the buses, and as soon as they arrive at the compound, or even at our schools, because again, basically we just made our wireless network bigger. So if they happen to catch it at a school, it can work off that as well. But generally, when they get back to the compound, as soon as they pull in the parking lot, it attaches to the network, and if there's a request in for the video, away it goes.
Thank you for that, Mr. Carter. Now, Bob, you mentioned that we can piggyback off an existing network, and this is a trend, right? We're seeing this more and more, that IT is choosing this. I guess it's simpler for them to have one network.
Most definitely. And like I said earlier, we do have the ability to help IT departments build a network, but more often than not, with school districts around the country expanding their own networks, we are able to piggyback off most of those networks.
Okay. Now, speaking of networks, Nice segue here. The next step is to ensure your vendor, whoever you select, has CWNP certification. So Bob, what is that exactly?
It's very complex from a sales perspective, but I think it's something that we don't brag about enough. All the Saon network engineering specialists that we have on board are CWNP certified. What is CWNP certification? I've got some verbiage here I'm just going to quickly read to everybody. The Certified Wireless Network Administrator, CWNA, is a foundation level certification from the CWNP that measures the ability to administer any wireless local area network. A wide range of topics focusing on the wireless LAN technology are covered in the coursework and exam, which is vendor neutral. We've got a quote here. Martin Steenblock, who's been with us, I think over 12 years now. He's our Director of Engineering Services. This is a quote from him. It's very important to have good wireless link when it comes to downloading video. Otherwise, you are faced with slow or incomplete downloads and an inefficient system that doesn't work well, causing lots of headaches for the transportation operators. Having certified wireless network professionals to analyze and design your system with your IT department so it works without incident is essential. So again, this is something that we really don't brag about enough, that our engineers are CWNP certified. So just be sure to ask that question and look for that certification when you're talking to other vendors.
Right, and Martin is the head of, I think, of a team of 4 or 5, and we're hiring more because we're seeing the demand out there.
Most definitely. 5 currently, and definitely looking at adding more to the team as our wireless downloading video demand increases.
Right, and they all have those certifications. Okay, step 3, ensuring your hardware is up to the task.
Yeah, very important actually, and this is going back to companies being unique in the industry. Saon, what we have done with our, it must be 28 plus engineers on staff, we've always tried to take our customers as far into the future with technology as it changes. As we all know, our iPhones, computers, tablets, all advance very quickly, but when you're dealing with transportation departments and budgets and budget restraints, taking that initial investment as long as possible into the future is important. So any current Saon customers that have our hardware on board their buses from 2010 or newer are all Wi-Fi ready today. Any of the new hardware that we release, so we've got a new hybrid DVR out there now that accepts both our analog and HD technology. Backwards compatibility is important, and we're one of the only vendors that can go back 9 years with technology. So all of the cabling from 2010 on our DVRs, all the camera heads are ready to plug into our brand new DVRs today. So again, ensure your hardware is up to date. Now, whether you're a Saon customer or not, if you're interested in looking at wireless video downloading, we provide a number of pieces to the investigation, discovery, and building a business case for everybody at no charge to the end users or prospects. So site assessments, webinars to understand the solutions, budgetary proposals, and ROI calculators are all provided at no expense to our prospects and customers.
All right, and just I'll go back a couple of slides very quickly. The image you see on the right here, that was taken from a proposal. That's an image of a site assessment. This is where we take a screenshot of a Google map, and we recommend where the hardware should be installed on a yard and what the coverage would be, and that's all part of the no-cost kind of investigation that Bob was just talking about. Now, Mr. Carter, I know when you started, you were faced with various hardware at Port St. Lucie. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in I guess, upgrading or consolidating your hardware before you came to wireless downloading?
Yeah, we had, like I said before, we had VHS tapes. We had 3 different DVR vendors. But what we had done over the years had worked to consolidate that, and we had got it down to a single vendor, which was Seon, and even today we have like 3 different models. We have anything from the 4-camera systems up to the newer 8 and up camera system. So, it's not something, a lot of people probably could do all at once, but we try to keep up with it as systems age out. We try to keep them up to date, and it worked really well.
Great. And so what would you recommend? Is it necessary or just preferable to kind of be all with one vendor before you get wireless downloading? Or is it okay to kind of do things piecemeal, maybe get wireless downloading on some of your systems, some of your buses, and then upgrade some more of your hardware and then get wireless downloading on that? Your thoughts on that process?
Well, I haven't experienced trying to do it with multiple vendors. I mean, I'm sure it's possible. I think the issue I would have is the software is probably different to interface with each group of hardware. So, whereas that's part of your package, if you had to have 3 different software logins to get to the data, that could be a drag as well. It may not be much better than having what you were doing before, going out and getting them manually. But so my thought is, the only way I've done it is with the single vendor. I would think that would be the way to go. But I guess it's possible.
Yeah, and Julius, to your point, and everybody listening online here, because everybody faces different budget constraints every year, whether you have a fleet of 10 buses or 1,000 buses and you want to do wireless video downloading implementation, you don't have to do your entire fleet. If monies are not available, you just do a small portion of the fleet. Usually you'll purchase the software license. We'll do some engineering services and training, but you can pick if you want to do 5 buses or 50 buses or 100 buses. It makes no difference. We've had districts with 1,100 bus fleets that took 6 years to implement their entire fleet based on budget restrictions. So don't feel you have to do your entire fleet up front. You can do it as money comes available.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Perhaps I didn't ask the question properly the first way, but thank you for reading my mind. All right. So doing more with less. Bob.
Yeah, I think this is something that we've all seen in the last 5 years, that every district in the nation is being asked to do more with less every year. And how do we combat that? How do we deal with that? We very simply need to increase the day-to-day operating efficiency. Adding wireless video download solution would definitely be a step in the right direction. Some of the feedback we've gotten already, no more chasing hard drives across the county when you need to pull video, knowing when there's an issue with the hardware before you actually need video from it. Mr. Carter, can you talk a little bit about how this has increased your day-to-day operating efficiency?
Definitely. From our perspective, we have a couple of groups that are involved with needing video, and that is our area managers, who generally get calls from schools from discipline problems, and then we have our security staff, which usually their requests, deal with more serious activity, sometimes even criminal activity. Of course, we also make it a habit now, if we're involved in an accident, to download that video as well, just to have a record in case somebody comes back later and claims something. So we've got several different scenarios that we use, but the big thing is we no longer have to wait for the bus to get back to make the request. At any time of the day or night, you get an indication that you need to request a video. You just put it in the system, which is internet-based, so anywhere that you are with a connection, you can do that. You don't have to be on site or anything. And then the system also lets us know when there's hardware issues, such as a camera that's not producing video or a hard drive that appears to have an issue, so that we can get a handle on that a lot quicker. One of the things somebody mentioned, and I've been there too, you go to pull a hard drive and find out that it wasn't recording and you didn't know that. So all is lost, so to speak. So now we get indications beforehand so we can send somebody out and hopefully get ahead of the game so that when we need the video, it's there for us.
Excellent. Thank you. So how is this, I guess I'll ask and answer the question myself. How is this part of the implementation? Well, it's part of making the business case, right? If you're asked to do more with less, you need to know where the opportunities are and what the tools are available to make those efficiencies, right? So knowing what wireless downloading can do and how it can save you time or money, and then taking advantage of it once you do have it, is all part of making your work easier, yes, but also making the business case for getting it and keeping it. And then more specifically, we have an ROI calculator for that, and I'll let Bob speak to that.
Yeah, so step 5, really this is about proving the return on the investment. So building a business case with you guys. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we will work with existing Seon customers or new prospects with your IT departments, with our professional engineering services team. We will provide the site assessment, webinars to understand our solution better, budgetary proposals, and then this calculator has been a great tool. So basically, we take the number of buses, how many video requests per day, and we give you a calculation of what you're spending today manually pulling video. And then at the bottom, once we have those numbers in place, and again, it's not an exact science, but we can show you a return on the initial investment. So yes, when we're looking at budgetary proposals and presenting them to the powers that be, the superintendent or the board, they're looking at it as a spend. But again, with your investment with us and our long-term relationship that we're looking for, we're actually looking at this as an investment and not a spend. And again, to help with the business case, all the things that we do for free and providing this calculator will help you build that business model. Mr. Carter, if you wouldn't mind, I know we went through all these steps with you guys, including the ROI calculator, but how did this help you with your business case when you were presenting it?
Well, it was certainly a way to answer the first question of any CFO, and that is, how much is it going to cost and what's the payback? So we definitely used it, but we also, in addition to what your ROI calculator did for us, we had created our own solution for the problem that people were talking about in the poll of finding out that the system, something was wrong with it when you went to pull a video. So what we did, we only have one technician that's assigned to handle our tech stuff, to try to keep up with it, whether it be our two-way radios or our GPS systems or our cameras or whatever. So obviously he just doesn't have enough time to go around and do routine, routine checks to see if everything's working. So what we did was we took some bus drivers, trained them how to test the system, and on a rotating basis sent them around to buses, trying to touch every bus once a month just to make sure it was in working order. So we had to put a dollar amount to that too in the process of the ROI to let them know, hey, we won't have to do this anymore because this system actually tells us when there's an issue. So we had two things. We had that going, plus we tried to quantify the amount of time our security staff and managers were spending having to chase the drives down. And then the third thing, which it's really hard to calculate, and that is the hidden cost of how much are you paying out on liability claims. You know, when, like I said, we get claims all the time. Just had one the other day from an accident where the student's claiming $25,000 in medical bills. I go back and look at the video, and the kid didn't even wake up when the wreck happened. So I'm like, how did you have $25,000 in medical bills? So we use our videos routinely to eliminate what would probably be some kind of payout just to make somebody go away because we couldn't prove otherwise. And that's really hard to quantify, but we sure know it's out there, and we make it a point to talk to our risk management department all the time and remind them of that, because they're a big supporter of us and saying, yes, we need this because it really does pay for itself.
Right, thank you. And what you're talking about there, the functionality that kind of helps you to avoid some of those hard to quantify liability claims is the health check. And Bob will be talking about this on the next slide. But basically, with wireless downloading, with the software, you are able to see if a camera is working or not, which is something that you can't if you only have if you don't have wireless downloading, if you only have hard drives. I got a note from somebody saying that they can't quite see the bottom line of the ROI calculator, so I'll just read it out. So the last three lines are the yearly savings from VMAX Commander, and the last line says savings after 5 years, $123,990. Okay. And so here I'm going to give the mouse over to Bob. Just give me a second. There's the spotlight tool. And I believe there we are.
Thank
Bob.
you, Julius. Okay, so what we have here is what you would see when you log into our VMAX Commander web-based solution. So with Commander, this is the dashboard that you can log into. And again, as Mr. Carter mentioned, you can log in, and he has from home. Not that everybody gets phone calls at home on the evenings and weekends, right? But yeah, you can log in from home if you get a phone call from a driver or somebody, hey, you need to log in and schedule a video download. I had a fight I forgot to let you know about. So you can do that. But we do leave all the video residing in your secure network. So this is a web-based solution, but all the video with your IT department's help does stay in your secured local area network. So Commander, over here on the left, we've got our general tab. What this does is just give you visibility to your fleet, the total amount of vehicles that you have, how many vehicles are connected, disconnected, overdue. Maybe a vehicle's been taken in for engine work, transmission work, or even body work. You guys weren't notified of that. So any vehicle that doesn't connect in 48 hours or longer will show as overdue. So you can click on that, see what vehicle is overdue, do your little investigation, find out it's in the body shop, and then switch it out so you've got a vehicle that is connecting to Commander. The next tab or widget, as Engineering Services calls it, is the alarm tab. So this is the only thing that we download automatically. Now, it can be turned on or off. It's up to you guys how you want this set up. But every time the alarm button is hit to separate an event of a parent getting on board or a fight that broke out, that will download automatically when the vehicle connects back to your network. Next tab, the health status. This is by far one of the most important features that comes with Commander. And there's been a couple comments already of, knowing when there is a hardware problem before you guys need video. And Mr. Carter has actually commented on this as well. So every morning, whoever is assigned to looking after the camera systems, Commander will email them, notifying them that they need to print off the health status report. So whether it's a hard drive that needs attention, camera 3 on bus 27 that's not producing video, or our passive GPS receiver, you will have full visibility as to what is not working as the hardware ages on the school buses before you guys need to pull video. Downloads. So manual downloads is like going up to the bus to pull a hard drive, although you're not running across the county or in 120-degree weather or pouring rain to pull hard drives any longer. So you go into manual video request, you schedule the download, you can title it Parent Got on Board, hit complete, and it will notify you when that video is downloaded. Alarms, again, from the alarm menu will download automatically. And then we've got recurring. Recurring is a pretty cool feature, actually. It's got two functions. One would be for training purposes. If you get a new driver on board and you want to just make sure that they're doing what they've been taught to do, you can schedule recurring video for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the afternoon from that new driver's vehicle, and then take a look at what they did or did not do and help them get better at their day-to-day job. The other piece for recurring video would be maintenance. So going back to the health status, we will detect hardware failures on the bus, but we won't detect the camera not being able to see. And what I mean by that is if a camera has a plastic bag put over it, or somebody's taken sandpaper to the dome, or a Sharpie. These things do happen. We've all experienced it. But again, we cannot determine if the camera cannot see. So your maintenance person can schedule recurring download, just 5 seconds from each bus, and then you can have a look and make sure the cameras are actually seeing what they're supposed to see. That's the dashboard. Up top here on the right-hand side, there is a lot more to Commander than I can show you here just with this slide, in the reporting and how granular this can get. Mr. Carter, could you elaborate a little bit on the reporting and what you guys are getting and how you've set up your fleet, pushing out firmware updates to Commander through to your fleet through Commander?
Sure. One of the first things I noticed when we completed our installation, we had set our timer for the system to be on, so to speak, after the bus parked, whether it be in the morning or the evening, at 2 hours. So what we were finding out, a lot of times we don't get a call to say 11 a.m. that bus such and such had a fight on it this morning and we want the video. So if we were putting in request at 11 a.m., by that time the unit had went to sleep mode and wouldn't automatically pick up the network even though it was sitting on the lot. So what we did was, with a simple over-the-air update, we changed the 2 hours to 4 hours. Didn't have to touch a single bus, and within a day it was done. And so now our buses are the mode on the DVR. It's staying on for 4 hours when it gets in the morning and again in the afternoon. So if somebody on second shift security has to put in a request, it's very possible they'll get the video that evening and not have to wait till the next morning when it hits the compound. So the software interface is really simple to use. I've got folks at every level of competence with technology, and in this piece, I don't have anybody that I have to handhold. You know, we've got GPS, routing, and everything else, and I've still got folks that can't quite get it. But this one, I don't have anybody that can't do it, and I've got more than a dozen people that I would call power users simply because of the number of requests they get. So, you know, we pretty much learned how to do it. We request as small a block of time as we can, and we use low resolution until we find the event. And then if we need to, we can go back and request a smaller block with high resolution with the exact time if that's what we need. Most of the time, low resolution works fine. But it's really simple to use, and we really enjoy it.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Okay, so this is the end of our presentation, and looks like we have lots of time for Q&A. Before you do, while you put in your questions, let's just have a quick overview of what we saw here. So Bob showed you what wireless downloading is and the hardware and software and network support that it involves. We talked about the importance of working with your IT department, ensuring that your vendor has CWNP certification for installing those networks with your IT department, how to check if your hardware is up to the task, how to do more with less, and how to prove your business case with the ROI calculator. So let's get to the questions. I'm very glad to see that we have a lot of them. Let's start with this question from Kevin. When requesting video, is the request based on bus number, date, time, etc., or something else?
Actually, Kevin, all of the above. You're going to get notification from somebody that there was an incident on the bus, so you know the bus number that was on. You can go into Commander and schedule the manual video download based on the time and date of the event. And actually, there's another piece to that. So the time and date. So with our camera systems, since actually the late 2000s, we have offered a passive GPS receiver. This little magnetic receiver ensures that the time and date stamp is up to date all the time on our DVRs. And also, when you're looking at historical video with our software, we'll give you the location of the bus and the speed the bus was going. But to do a time and date search in Commander, it's imperative that you do have the passive GPS receiver as part of the camera system to ensure that the date that you're looking for can be found.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Does the bus have to be running in order to download video?
No, absolutely not. So to Mr. Carter's point at the last slide there, when he was talking about they initially had the bus, sorry, the camera system go into sleep mode after the bus turned off. So we will record for up to 1 hour after the ignition is turned off. So we'll record video. Then if you've got the wireless download solution, we'll go into a power delay off. And that can be programmed anywhere between 2 and 4 hours. So the bus does not have to be running, no.
And I guess a related question to that about dead battery issues, leaving the cameras on so long after the bus. So you say we can leave the cameras on for an hour after it's running, and then wireless downloading is set by the user.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I'll take that one, Bob, if
go
you
ahead,
like.
Mr. Carter. Yep. Thank you.
The 2 to 4 hour thing, that's how we came to the conclusion to do 4 hours. If we do more than that, we do run the risk of drawing batteries down. So the 4 hours, actually, we came to that decision looking at what's the longest we could go without causing any problems. You know, we could probably push that a little farther, but really 4 hours is enough, because that's usually about the time they're going to turn around and come back in to go out for the afternoon. So it wouldn't do us any good to extend it except in the evening. And usually anything that we needed downloaded is going to download in that first 4 hours anyway. So the 4 hours is the medium we found that we don't have any dead battery issues. But if you set it higher than that, I imagine you're going to get to a point pretty quick where you would.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Hey, and there was a couple other people have asked about the time to download video. One thing I didn't cover when you're doing a manual video request, more often than not, you guys will get a phone call and somebody will say, well, a parent got on board and there was a 30-minute, incident outside in the stepwell on the sidewalk. So you log into Commander, you schedule the initial download. Now we've got 2 options for your initial download request. There's a low resolution and a high resolution. So for your initial investigation, you can tell Commander just to download the 30 minutes in a lower resolution, so it's a faster download process for you. And then after investigating, you realize there's only 2.5 minutes of video you need. You can go back into Commander, schedule the manual video download in high resolution for the 2.5 minutes for the actual event, and wait for that to download. So, Mr. Carter, how have you found the download times? I mean, it's going to depend on the throughput that you and your IT department have created, but how are you finding on average for, 15, 10, 20 minutes of video?
Well, as I mentioned, we have 3 different systems right now. We have one of the older analog systems, and then we have a newer digital system, an HD system, but it's a hybrid because, as Bob mentioned, you can do things in stages. So what we did, while we brought in the new DVR, we kept our original cameras and we added to them. So we went from a 4 camera to a 6 camera. And then our newest systems are the 8 camera DVRs, and they're full HD because as we got new buses, we're putting all new cameras in. So we've got the whole spectrum. So what we're finding, especially with these brand new buses with the full HD, it takes a while if you're going to try to do like an hour. Now what we do is, again, we use our tricks. We do the low resolution. And if you have like an 8 camera system and you already know that this is an on the bus event, then you can check, you can do all the cameras if that's what you want when you request a video, but you can also knock off the one facing out our backup camera or our forward front facing camera out the window if you know full well you're not looking for anything happening off the bus. So you can use that as a tool. And again, the big thing we do is we try to close in on it as low as we can, start out with that low resolution, and then if we need to, we can go back and do it again on high for a shorter period of time that narrows right on the focus. But there's definitely, it takes up a lot of room, these new, the higher def. But again, once you see the high def, you can't go back to the analog. It's just too crystal clear, and it gives you exactly what you need. So I'm sure the technology will get better and better. But right now, you just have to think about it, and it can take a little while if like I said, we had schools wanting a whole week's worth. We're like, you got to be kidding. So you just have to work with that.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you for jumping in there, Mr. Carter. I got a question, or there's a question for me here. Is this webinar being recorded, and how we will get the link? Yes, it is being recorded, and I will send you the link. Hopefully by the end of today, but if not, then definitely tomorrow. Okay, now the next question for Bob and Mr. Carter here is, there's a few questions about multiple users, like how many people can have access to the system? Can they view the video at once? I think there's a question here about sharing access to the videos with a specific school principal or superintendent, or does it need to go through the transportation department first? So Bob, perhaps you can speak to that.
All very good questions that we're seeing on board. So thank you, everybody. So in regards to permissions, Commander is very, very granular. And if anybody wants to have a closer look after this webinar and actually get a full-blown presentation on Commander and the reporting and all its capabilities, work with your local Seon sales executive, and they'll be able to set that up with our engineering services department. But yeah, so permissions, we can set it up and tailor it to each individual customer. Everybody has different needs in regards to how they want to see Commander perform, who has accessibility to the video, who can look at the video, who can request video downloads. This can all be set up during the implementation part and be changed at any time down the road as your day-to-day operations change. We can change the settings on this. You guys can actually adjust the settings yourselves. Mr. Carter, can you talk a little bit about the way you guys have set this up at St. Lucie with the principals and administrators in your transportation department?
Sure. Basically, we don't want him in our business. So, and that can be a bad thing because, again, if you're going to keep them out, then you got to do all the work for them. So, yeah, we take the calls from them and, we download it and send it to them. So before we had wireless, when we brought the hard drives in the office, we would burn them to a CD and have somebody take them over. And then eventually, because of again, as the technology has grown, so has the size of the videos. So then we had to get DVD discs to put them on. And then, there at the end, before we went wireless, it was getting to where they wouldn't even fit on a disc. You'd have to break them up. So, but anyway, what we're doing now, our IT department has set us up with Microsoft OneDrive. And what we're doing, when you log into Commander, you make your request. And again, Commander works from anywhere because it's just in the cloud internet-based software. But then the actual server is owned by the district and it's on our property. And the actual video gets downloaded to that. So it's always on our network. Now, when you go back to look at it, and by the way, you can even, when you go to put your request in, let's say I hear about something tonight and I put it in and I don't want to forget about it, I can tell it to email me when it downloads it in the morning. So that'll remind me, hey, I did request the video last night. So once I see that, I can click on it and I can either play it directly on my computer from the server, or I can actually download it from the server onto my computer if that's what I want to do. So once I do that, then I can, whichever way I do it, I can clip the part that I want to send to the school. And again, we use OneDrive, but there's certainly other ways your IT department could set you up. That's just our solution to it, but there's, I'm sure, dozens of ways you could do that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Carter. We have questions here about managing multiple sites. For example, one question says, if you have a district with 30 sites, could you potentially provide access to all 30 sites to be able to request and pull video? So Bob, maybe you can talk about, 30 or multiple sites in general and how our system anyway handles that type of thing.
Yeah, there's no real limit to Commander. We do multiple compound locations. We can anywhere the bus connects to an existing network that you guys have or one that we've built with your IT department. The bus connects to the network, the video request starts to download, and even if it is interrupted, like the bus is at a school district connected to your network, your video request starts to download. If it gets interrupted, it just remains there. It doesn't have to start over. As soon as it gets to the next school district or to a fueling station or wherever you've got Wi-Fi, it will continue that download request. So as far as multiple compounds, multiple sites, yeah, we would be definitely involving our CWNP certified engineers to work with your IT department and discover what type of existing network you have, how that local area network amongst all those compounds are connected, and we would figure out a solution on how to make that work for you guys. Yeah. So no limit really to what we can do.
Thank you, Bob. Slightly related question that we may not be able to answer right now. This is from a contractor, not school district. He's a contractor. He's helping with all the cameras and downloading and so on. He's asking if you can manage this from a location far away from the site, another state. I don't want to take a guess, so we'll ask one of our CWNP certified engineers about that.
Yeah, we'll verify with engineering for sure, but the way I'm reading this is that like Mr. Carter said, when he's at home, he can log in and he can see Commander and get health status of the vehicles, schedule video downloads. So yeah,
I don't imagine being out of state would really.
Nope, absolutely not.
It's an internet tool, right?
Yep. Not that anybody wants to be doing this when they're on vacation, but it is doable.
You can totally do it from a beach on Maui. All right, we have a few questions about videos. What happens to videos after they're downloaded? I'll kind of bundle them up here. How do you recommend storing the videos after they are downloaded to the computer? I think there was a question in general, how much server memory is required? Are the videos saved in Commander's cloud? What kind of format are they?
Again, people, thank you so much. These are all really good questions, and we get these all the time. So as far as the video, so like when you pull a hard drive, you open up our software. Our hard drive's connected through a USB device to the computer, and you open up our VMAX View software, and you're looking at video and archiving it to a computer or a server or your own local area network cloud. So in regards to...
I'm sorry, Bob, I already deleted them.
In regards to, sorry, what was the last part of that question again?
I already deleted it, but it was basically, okay, what is the format of the videos?
So when you're in Commander, again, you've requested your video download. It will show in the downloads that the video is sitting there. Once you click on that video that's downloaded, it opens up our VMAX View software. So you, from that point, determine, is this going to be part of a chain of evidence? Am I just going to need to share it with one of the local principals? You can put it onto a thumb drive, you can put it onto a disk, or you can put it in your own local area network cloud, give that principal access to the video and look at it there.
Because once it's downloaded, it's on our Commander cloud?
No, actually, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, all the video resides within your secured network.
Okay.
Commander, yes, is a cloud-based solution, but all the video always resides within your secured network. And as far as the amount of storage you need, that does vary on fleet size, how many video requests you're getting per day. I would say, and we would again have to confirm, with our engineering services department, but smaller fleets of 50 buses or 100 buses or less can get away with a Core i5 or 7 2 terabyte PC for video storage. Anything bigger, you're probably going to need a server to start storing the video. But again, all these questions get answered and asked and answered, I guess is a better way to put it, on the initial investigation. When we're talking to you guys, talking to your IT department, how many video requests you're getting per day, all this will be predetermined before any money is spent. Budgets will already be known, numbers will be fully understood, fully transparent. We go through a lot of steps to make sure everybody fully understands what we're doing. We want to be vetted by our customers and prospects as much as we want to vet our customers and prospects. We want to make sure we're the right fit for everybody.
Thank you, Bob. Quick question here. How many days does it go back? I'm assuming that's... how would you read that question?
Well, if you mean like a history, it's good for as long as you have it on the server. So, and in theory, it's as long as you have the system. Now, I imagine one day, I'm going to have to decide to archive some history off of our server, but right now it's got, everything we've ever asked for. So there's really not a limit. I guess it's a limit as far as how many, how many terabytes of storage you're going to have on your server, but that's really the limit of it.
Well, and the other answer, thank you, Mr. Carter, the other answer, or second part to that question is the media storage on your recorder. So if your DVR has a 500 gig or a terabyte or 2 terabyte hard drive, the video is being stored on there, depending on the cameras, whether they're analog or HD, if they're 720 or 1080p, how many frames per second you're recording, if it's 15 or 30, is all going to determine the video retention capability of that hard drive. And we do have a calculator for video retention we can work with you on. So again, if you want to confirm or get more information in regards to that particular question, you can contact your local Seon sales representative, and they can run some numbers on the calculator with you.
Definitely, and we will be getting in touch with you after this webinar as well through the next few days. There's a couple questions here about sharing the videos with people perhaps outside of the system. For example, what is the best way to format and send video clips to the authorities in case of a criminal investigation, etc.? Do we need to provide some sort of viewing software to the authorities to view the clips?
Actually, that's an excellent question, because law enforcement gets involved more often than we would like, I think. There's no right or wrong way actually to share the video. So all of our video is always recorded in a proprietary format. That protects the video. It belongs to our end users, you guys, the customer, and then you decide how you're going to deal with this. We will make suggestions. We will help, but again, there is no wrong way. If it's going to be part of a chain of evidence going to court, we have actually 5 different options, archive options, in sharing our video and creating that chain of evidence. There's a Seon file format that creates a small proprietary file that needs to be played back through our software. We have Windows Media file types, WMV and Advanced AVI. It's not a serious incident, you just want the principal to be able to look at it through Windows Media Player or VLC, you can save it in that format. We've got self-playing proprietary files, MP4 formats. We've got plenty of options for you guys to decide for that particular instance what's the best way to manage that particular video.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Carter, we'll circle back to a topic you covered just a couple of questions ago. Somebody here has, I think, systems very similar to yours. Our systems that are a mix of high definition and not. His question is, what is the recommended max video time requested? I think they're running into issues with time.
We try really hard to stay under an hour.
Under an hour.
It's not that you can't do it, but we really try to stay under an hour. And like I said, we start out with the low res at that because, again, it just depends on which system I'm looking at. If I'm looking at one of the new HD with all HD cameras, that can take a while.
Yeah.
So, part of it, you think, the normal thing about a school calls, and I'm not really worried about how quick I get it back as long as within a day. But if it's something, ultimately that's really serious, criminal action, or you got law enforcement senator wanting a video, it may be, one of those things where you just go get it the old-fashioned way. But, we've only had 1 or 2 of those since we've had wireless. But because if you need it, right now immediately, you might not want to wait for it to download, but that's really rare. Like I said, it's only happened like once. But it does take a few minutes if you're looking at any amount of time.
Right. So you still have the option of making one of your employees go out in a Florida heat to get the hard drive manually like before.
Well, hopefully they remember how. Like I said, it's not something we've certainly said goodbye to that a year ago, but it is still available.
I noticed, sorry, Julius, the one question that got asked that we hadn't talked about yet was after implementation, the investment is made. You've got Commander, you've got the Wi-Fi hardware on your buses, your secured network, the recurring fee. So the annual recurring fee is only $36 per year per bus. So that's due year 2 and thereafter. So depending on how many buses you've actually got activated, communicating with Commander, again, that will be $36 per year per bus.
Okay, we're almost at the bottom of the hour here, so time for a couple of questions maybe. And one plug, the same question, the person who asked the last question also says, on a side note, we are retrieving over 95% of our requests now with Commander from a 50 to 60% retrieval rate before Commander. So that's great.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Okay. Let's see.
Actually, there's a good question here. Mr. Carter, you might be able to help out. I know we can push firmware updates on the DVRs through Commander. We can do the firmware update, and then there was the, oh, here it is. Sorry, I lost the question there. So, Mr. Carter, when you know you can do the firmware update push through Commander, you can set the fleet configurations. If you've got different systems on your ESC buses or your conventional buses, you can do all the fleet settings through Commander. Formatting hard drives, I don't know if, I actually can't remember, Mr. Carter, you don't format hard drives through Commander? I believe that has to be done manually.
No.
You got to pull those.
No, but we've certainly done the firmware updates, and it's a really simple process. Like I said, right now I have 3 different versions of Seon systems. So when I go into the fleet settings, I just create 3 different templates, which is really just a couple of minute event to set up and tell it to upgrade firmware, and then you tell it to execute that. And of course, you select all the buses that have that platform, and the system already knows that. You don't have to know which systems are which. Commander already knows that. So you just say, I want to send all my TL4s a firmware update, and you can go back later and see that they all picked it up. If by chance one didn't for some reason, maybe didn't hit the network, maybe it's been down or something, you can see which ones they are.
Awesome. And just further to that, so formatting drives. So I was thinking while Mr. Carter was talking, no, you can't do it through Commander, nor can you do it when you're using our viewing software. So if you've got Commander or not, if you've got our software opened up, you cannot format a hard drive and accidentally erase video. You physically have to be on the bus with a monitor plugged into the DVR, and you have to tell the DVR to format that hard drive. We've stayed with that that model since we've started with digital recorders back in 2004, and it's been the best practice, I would say, because we've never had a video accidentally erased with our software or with Commander. You actually physically have to go out to the bus and do it. Nor can you delete a section of video. We've had transportation departments contact us where they've been accused by a parent saying, no, you just deleted that event. And if you've got events before and after, there's no way you can delete the middle. You delete all of our video or none. We've stayed with that, like I said, since 2004.
All right, one last question. And this is a good segue, I think, to the end. How do we get an idea of what our district needs and what would be the best for our school district and bus companies?
In regards to wireless download, then we would begin the initial discovery and investigation for sure. Start by talking to your sales executive, and then we would get your IT department involved on a webinar with our professional engineering services department to take a look at the existing network you have. And then we would look at some budgetary numbers and proposals along with the ROI calculator and go through the 5 steps of, and don't forget to vet your existing hardware if you need to update any of the hardware or get new hardware if you're not a current Seon customer. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. It doesn't take a long time. Our engineering services department usually responds within 2 to 5 business days with a site assessment, and then we would set up a webinar after that to talk with yourselves and your IT department.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Wow, this was a really engaged audience. We got tons of questions. I think we managed to answer well over half of them, but there's still quite a few left on the board. We will get back to you with your questions personally over the next few days. In the meantime, if you have some other questions, you can reach out to us at that email address that you see, seonmarketing@seon.com. That will come to me, and I will make sure to forward it to the right people. I will end the webinar in a second. Please take a minute. There's an exit survey. I think there's about 5 quick questions there. We would love to hear your thoughts about the webinar and about your wireless needs as well. So once again, Bob, thank you. That was great.
Thank you, Julius, and thank you, Mr. Carter, and thank you, everyone, for your time today. This is an important piece. Everybody is getting busier every day, every year. How do we operate more efficiency? And wireless video downloading is definitely going to be helpful in increasing your day-to-day operating efficiency. So thank you again, everybody, for your time.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.